dedicating the shir Lilili Nishmoser. Her name it was Esther Dvairo Basra Mesha Aaron. Tonight's shir should be a schus for her neshama in Gan Eden. Perhaps appropriately, Rabbi Yissocher, we're going to speak about a sugya tonight that is in fact negea to women. And that is, we have in the past dedicated several shiurim on parshas to the sugya of Kiddush levanna. Well, what is the connection between parshas and Kiddush levanna? So that this is indeed not a stretch. The Gemara says in Masechta Sanhedrin on Daf Beis Amud Aleph, Omer Rabbi Yochanan, Chol hamavarech al hachodesh bezmanoi ki'ilu mekabel panei hashchina. But a person who's mavarech al hachodesh bezmanoi, a person who makes Kiddush levanna in its proper time, it's as though he's mekabel the panei hashchina. And that is in fact what we say in the nusach of the Kiddush levanna. That if we would only be mekabel pamachas b'chedesh dayam hilchot tzarich l'mema ma'umad, being mekadosh the levanna is a form of being mekabel panei hashchina. The Gemara darshans this from the fact si pocha hachodesh hazeh lochem, because it says in our parsha hachodesh hazeh lochem uksiv hosam zeh keli vanveyu. The word zeh, the connotation of the word zeh in Lashon Kodesh is literally that a person can almost point to and say zeh, that's it. So hachodesh hazeh lochem. That's why, for instance, when Klal Yisrael on the Kriyas Yamsuf, the pasuk says zeh keli vanveyu, that they were literally able to point with their fingers and say that's the Rebbeinu Shalom. Perhaps time permitting, we'll speak about this in the latter part of the shir. But Masharosa Shivchal Hayom Leroy Cheskel Ben Buzi, that even this plain maid servant in Klal Yisrael had a Gili Shechina, had a perception of the Rebbeinu Shalom that was equivalent to the Navi Yechezkel. So therefore, when it says Zeh Keli Vanveyu, that it's a connotation of able to point and direct. So when it says Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem, the word Hazeh has the same connotation. And therefore, when we go out on night and we're mekadosh levanna, it's kivul mekabel panei hashchina. And that's the connection between parshas and the sugya of Kiddush levanna. So tonight, Rabbi Yissocher, we're going to speak about there's a Mogen Avraham in the beginning of Siman Tov Chavav. It's in the preamble to Siman Tov Chavav. Tov Chavav is the halachas of Kiddush levanna. So the Mogen Avraham writes, V'zel L'shani, we're going to take this Mogen Avraham and analyze it line by line. It's not a very long Mogen Avraham, but if you're familiar with Mogen Avrahams, you know that the Mogen Avraham is very cryptic, almost enigmatic, and he says things extremely briefly and succinctly, but there are many things that are contained in every single line of the Mogen Avraham. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to concentrate on this Mogen Avraham. The Mogen Avraham writes in the beginning of Siman Tov Chavav, Noshim Peturais, that women are potter from the mitzvah of Kiddush levanna. If you've ever wondered how come women are never mekadosh levanna, how come that is the job of men to go outside on a cold Motzei Shabbos and be mekadosh levanna, because the Mogen Avraham says women are potter to have mitzvahs aseh shahazman grama. So that's the first statement that the Mogen Avraham makes. The women are potter because it's a mitzvah aseh shahazman grama. The mitzvah, the concept of mitzvah aseh shahazman grama, which I'm sure many of you are familiar, and that is that any mitzvah that is a time-bound mitzvah, women are potter. That is, for instance, the reason that women are potter from lulav, women are potter from sukkah, because these are mitzvahs that are time-bound. The time causes them. Mitzvah aseh shahazman grama. That's why women are potter from tefillin. Truth be told, women should be potter from matzah, but there's a special gzeras hakosef that says women are chayiv in matzah, because since they're osir and chometz, kol sheyeshna b'bal teichel chometz, yeshna b'kruma chol matzah. But the rule of thumb is that unless there's an exception to the rule, which of course there are many, but under normal circumstances, women are potter from the mitzvah aseh shahazman grama. The reason for that, which we're really not going to go into it, this is just an aside. Many of you, I'm sure, feel familiar with the Abu Dhram. The Rambam says that the reason women are put to mitzvahs asher sazman grama, because the Torah realizes that women have to, in their role as taking care of being the mother, taking care of children, and being the wife, taking care of the house. So therefore, they can't always be bound by doing mitzvah at a specific time. And therefore, instance, the mitzvah of Kriya Shema, which men have to be careful to perform at a certain time, not before, not after. So to go ahead and to impose this on women, so that's why the Torah parted for women, because of their obligations to their husbands and to their children and to their home. But therefore, says the Mogen Avraham, that this is a mitzvah aseh shazman groma. It's obviously a time-bound mitzvah. You can only do it at a certain time of the month, and from the third day of the month up until 14 plus days in the month. Therefore, it's a mitzvah aseh shazman groma, and therefore women are paturais. Even though there is in fact a discussion between Rashi and Taisus and Masechta Brachas and Avchafim and Beis, whether the rule of mitzvah aseh shazman groma applies to mitzvahs d'Rabbanan, because the classic exemption of women for mitzvahs aseh shazman groma is by mitzvahs that are deraisa, kriya shema, lulav, and sukkah, etc. And this is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. That happens to be in machlekes Rashi and Taisus on Chafam and Beis Masechta Brachas, but the Mogen Avraham comes down on the side that even though this is only a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, Kiddush levanna is not a mitzvah deraisa, but nevertheless the rule of mitzvah aseh shazman groma applies to it as well, and therefore they're potter. That's the first statement of the Mogen Avraham. Then the Mogen Avraham quickly says, "Va'afal gav the mekaymes kol mitzvah aseh shazman groma, mikol makom mitzvah zu ein mekaymen." The Mogen Avraham quickly bavorts and says that we all know that our women, in spite of the fact that they may be potter from a mitzvah aseh shazman groma, nevertheless they go out of their way to fulfill it. Women are potter from the mitzvah of shofar, because it's a mitzvah aseh shazman groma. Yet women will go through many difficult contortions in order for them to go out to hear shofar. Most women, certainly Ashkenazic women, make a point of shaky lula. Matter of fact, there are many women that won't eat until their husbands come home from Yisru on Sukkot, because they don't eat before they shake lulav. So, as a matter of course, women are mekayim mitzvah aseh shazman groma. So therefore, the Mogen Avraham avorts and says, why is this any different? Why should Kiddush levanna be different than shofar? That in spite of the fact that women are potter, nevertheless they make the effort, which is a noble effort, and they should be lauded for it. But why this is different? So then the Mogen Avraham writes, in the name of the Shalom HaKadosh, mitzvah zu ein mekaymen. This is an exception to the rule. This is a mitzvah aseh shazman groma that women do not perform. And why is that? Because it was the women that caused the moon to be reduced. Meaning, Rabbi Yisai, you're all familiar with the fact that when the Rebbeinu Shalom created the world in the Sheshes Shemei Bereshis, the sun and the moon were of equal size, and the Rebbeinu Shalom was Mamayit levanna, and in fact that's one of the things that we say at the end of Kiddush levanna, that the Rebbeinu Shalom eventually, Lasad Lamai, should once again make the moon as big as the sun. So the Mogen Avraham writes in the name of the Shalom that the reason women don't say Kiddush levanna is because they are responsible for the fact that the levanna was dismayed. And therefore, that's why this is a mitzvah aseh shazman groma that women should not fulfill, because it's they look up at the moon. The moon is what the moon is because the women caused that. So therefore it says the Shalom HaKadosh, the women don't make Kiddush levanna. Again, we'll return to that point. Then the Mogen Avraham says, as is his custom throughout his parashas Shulchan Aruch, Ayin Masha Kasavnu Siman Reish Tzadi Vav. Look what I wrote in Mitzvah Reish Tzadi Vav. So I'll let you in on a little secret what the Mogen Avraham means in Siman. What he says, look what I said in Siman Reish Tzadi Vav. What did he say in Siman Reish Tzadi Vav? Reish Tzadi Vav is Hilchas Havdalah. Now the meaning is that women do not make Havdalah for themselves. Women should at all costs try to hear levanna from somebody, to hear Havdalah from somebody else. Why? Because maybe women are pater from Havdalah, because maybe Havdalah is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, which is in itself a discussion which we will not go in now. But since it's a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, the minig Yisrael is that women do not make Havdalah for themselves. So why? So the Mogen Avram over there says, even if Havdalah is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, but women as a matter of course, perform mitzvah saseh shazman grama, so why should they make Havdalah even if they're potter? So says the Mogen Avram over there that a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, that the entire mitzvah is the bracha. That type of mitzvah saseh shazman grama, women don't fulfill. Meaning, shofar is a mitzvah that you do. You hear the shofar, there's a bracha attached. Lulav is a mitzvah that you do. You shake the lulav, there's a mitzvah attached. Sukkah is a mitzvah that you do. You sit in the sukkah, the bracha is attached. Those type of mitzvahs that involve A, an act, and B, a bracha, they can do and they can make the bracha, at least according to the Ashkenazim. But, says the Mogen Avram in Hilchos Havdalah, a mitzvah that the entire mitzvah is just making the bracha. The whole mitzvah of Havdalah is just making the bracha. If the whole mitzvah is just a bracha, such a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, women in fact do not do. And therefore women make Havdalah. So therefore says the Mogen Avram cryptically, Masha Kasavti Simen Reish Tzadivov, that in Simen Reish Tzadivov I said this Yisrael, that a mitzvah, that the whole mitzvah is just making the bracha, women don't perform. Therefore, that's another reason why women don't make Kiddush levanna, because even though it's a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, but the whole mitzvah is just a bracha, when the whole mitzvah is just a bracha, women don't make it. That's point number 3. Zot the Mogen Avram, Uvesanhedrin Perek Hey Avinan al Birchas Halavana Hani Nashi Didon Nami Bavorchi. Then the Mogen Avram says that the Gemara says Mefurish and Masechta Sanhedrin in the 5th parak. I will return to this Gemara. The Gemara makes the statement, Hani Nashi, our wives, Hani Nashi Didan Nami Mavorchi. The Gemara says Mefurish that our wives make Kiddush levanna. Mashma, says the Mogen Avram, Mashma Tzas the Mavorchim. So what's this whole shmooze I just got finished saying? It's a Meferish Gemara. The Gemara says women make Kiddush levanna. Zot the Mogen Avram, Ve'esher delav davka nashi, ela lishna ba'alma nokat. When the Gemara says that our wives make Kiddush levanna, lav davka doesn't mean wives. It means we make Kiddush levanna. Lav dafka. Now, if I would say such a teretz abaisai, it would be probably the last year that you let me say in this shul. But if you're the Mogen Avram, you can get away with saying such a teretz. But that's a gevaldik adeichik. When the Gemara says Hani Nashi, our wives make Kiddush levanna, lav dafka. The Gemara doesn't mean wives, it means we make Kiddush levanna. That's what the Mogen Avram says. Okay, that Rabbi Yisai is the long and short, actually not the long and short, is the entire Mogen Avram. Number 1, women don't make Kiddush levanna because it's mitzvah saseh shazman grama. Number 2, even though normally women perform mitzvah saseh shazman grama, but this mitzvah saseh shazman grama is different because they caused the diminu, thank you, of the levanna. And number 3, that in Hilchos Havdalah I said that a mitzvah saseh shazman grama that is only a bracha they don't make. Number 4, the Gemara in Sanhedrin that says our wives make Kiddush levanna, that Gemara is lav dafka. Okay, so Rabbi said now we're going to go these 3 out of them. We already explained one of the points when he said, see what I said in Hilchos Havdalah, but the first 3 points that the Mogen Avram makes, or 3 out of the 4 points that the Mogen Avram makes, now we will try to analyze in depth. Point number 1. Kiddush levanna, says the Mogen Avram, is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. So Reb Shlomo Kluger, in his Hagos the Shulchan Aruch called Chachma Shlomo, and also in his Tshuva Sefer Ha'elef L'cha Shlomo, which as the title suggests It's 1,000 tshuvas that Rav Shlomo Kluger wrote. In both places, the Rav Shlomo Kluger takes strong issue with the Mogen Avraham and says the Mogen Avraham is wrong. This is not a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. This is not a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. On the face of it, it is. You can only make Kiddush levanna from the third day of the month until 14 plus. So, that's a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. Writes Reb Shlomo Kluger, v'zel l'shaynei. U'ladaiti hu tabuah ma'od. I don't understand this. This has nothing to do with the mitzvah saseh shazman. Why? Listen well. The klal zeh loy nemar rak b'mitzvah the guf ha-mitzvah shaycha tamid b'chol inyan u'b'chol zman k'goyn matzah oy sukkah o lulav the mitzvah zu shayach l'hiskayim b'cheshvan k'mo b'tishrei u'v'ir k'mo b'nisan. The definition of a mitzvah saseh shazman grama is a mitzvah that is conceivably able to be fulfilled any time of the year. Could I eat matzah now? Yes, I could. Could I sit in my sukkah now? Yes, I could. Could I shake a lulav now? Yes, I could. Nor Master Torah told me, matzah is in Nisan, sukkah is in Tishrei, Pesach is in Nisan. You got to do it then. That's a mitzvah saseh shazman groma, meaning that physically, conceivably, this mitzvah could be performed at any time of the year, day or night. The Torah picks a specific time. Matzah on the 15th of Nisan, Shofar on the 1st of Tishrei, Sukkah on the 15th of Tishrei. The Torah arbitrarily, not arbitrarily, because the Rebbe of course has his reasons, but the Torah at a specific time and no other time. That is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. Al pikin over Torah shahayom halolu chayovin mikan ve'elech poter. Avo b'levanna atu havalein miniya mikach hazman zelu havi miniya mikuf ze havi miniya mikuf ha-mitzvah shelo shaycha oz. You know why you have to make Kiddush levanna from the day 3 until day 14 of the month? Because that's when the new moon is new. After the 14th of the month plus, the moon isn't new anymore. It begins to wane. The reason you can't make it, what's the day? Today is Hey Shvat, right? So, 2 days ago, Rabbi Yisai, you couldn't make the levanna because it wasn't there. You couldn't see it yet. 5 days ago, you couldn't make the levanna because it wasn't new anymore. It was waning. But theoretically, this is a mitzvah that you can all the time. The reason you have to do it in this specific time is not because the Torah said this time and no time other. It's because physically, because of the mitzius, because of the actuality of the patterns of the moon. That's why you can't make Kiddush levanna on the 18th of the Chodesh, because it's not a new moon anymore. When the mitzius is the reason for the mitzvah not to be performed, that is not a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. And to prove it, Rabbi Yisai, there are several places where we see this very concept. For instance, the halacha is that a woman is chayiv to bring the bikurim, which means the first fruits that appear on your tree. A woman is mechuyev in the midst of havas bikurim. Question about whether she reads the parsha, she doesn't read the parsha, but she's mechuyev to bring the bikurim. When are you allowed to bring the bikurim? From till Achak. Maybe till Chanukah. But in other words, a woman, the Mishnah says, you can bring bikurim from Shavuos until Sukkot. So why is a woman mechuyev in mitzvah havas bikurim? Writes the Turiev in the Masechtas Megillah Daf Kov. Why is a woman chayiv in mikra bikurim? It's a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. You can only do it from Shavuos until Sukkot. You know why that's? And yet, it's not called a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. It's only done in a certain period of time. The teretz is poshut. You know why you have to bring it from Atzeres until Achag, from Shavuos until Sukkot? Because that's when the fruits appear. In the dead of winter, there aren't any bikurim to bring. So it's not the pshat that I could bring bikurim any time of the year, except the Torah said this specific time. No. The reason you bring bikurim from this time of the year is that's when the fruits appear. After Chag, there aren't any fruits basar anymore. That's not a mitzvah sasei shazman groma. Mitzvah sasei shazman groma is when I could do the mitzvah as easily in one month or the other, but the Torah, for its reason, said Tishrei and not Cheshvan. The Torah said Nisan and not Iyar. But if I can't do it because the Metzias doesn't let me do it, that's not a mitzvah sasei shazman groma. As they talk to Turi Yevin in Masechta Megillah.
The time before is not really specific.
It's totally on this on the way plants grow, the way fruit grow.
For argument's sake, things were growing in Teves.
Then it's theoretically yes. We'll come to such a shayla in a minute. Ha'ora number 2, same svara. There is a mitzvah called, not really a mitzvah, there's a thing called birchas ha'ilonis. Birchas ha'ilonis is, the Gemara says in Masechta Brachos, that b'yomei Nisan, on the days of Nisan, you go out and you see the fruit trees that are beginning to blossom. Kol zman that the fruit trees are blossoming, you make a bracha, special bracha. Our women chayiv in the bracha of birchas ha'ilonis. The women make birchas ha'ilonis. So one would be tempted to say it's a mitzvah sasei shazman grama, because you can only make it in Nisan. And in fact, the Gemara says b'yomei Nisan. Right? So it's Pesach in the Har Tzvi, not true. Because even, for instance, you're going to say b'yomei Nisan is dafka. But the reason the Chazal pricked Yomei Nisan is, you know why? Because that's when the fruit trees blossom. They don't blossom in July. They don't blossom in Sivan or Iyar or Tammuz. It's too late. There you either have fruit on the tree or you don't have fruit on the tree. But the blossoming of the tree occurs in the early spring. And therefore, writes Ritzi Pesach, Ulefi zeh bebirchas riyah didan kfar manu leil demand omer yomei Nisan dafka ein hakapeda al shem chaydish Nisan. It's not because it's chaydish Nisan. It's because that's when trees blossom. They don't blossom in January. They blossom in April and May. They blossom b'yomei Nisan. In fact, Ritzi Pesach brings a raya from Ritva. Let's say, Rabbi Yissocher, you live in the southern hemisphere. Right now it's February. It's the dead of winter. Even by walking outside tonight, or walking outside for the last month, you won't realize that it's the dead of winter, as reported this week in the Baltimore Sun. But it's the dead of winter. In South Africa, in South America, it's the middle of the summer. So, when do they make birchas ha'ilonis? When do they make birchas ha'ilonis in South Africa? I can tell you one, they don't make it b'yomei Nisan. Because b'yomei Nisan, it's mamish the dead of winter. So when do they make it? They make it, hastis, they make it in Tishrei. Why? Because there the seasons are reversed. September is the beginning of the fall, is the beginning of the spring. That's when they make it. So are you going to tell me that in the entire southern hemisphere they don't make birchas ha'ilonis? Zokatzi Pesach? No. What do they do? The Gemara says Yomei Nisan. Yomei Nisan just means because that's the proper season. So therefore it's the same thing when it comes to Kiddush levanna. Same thing when it comes to birchas ha'ilonis. This is not a mitzvah sasei shazman groma. The definition of a mitzvah sasei shazman groma is that you could do it any time, except the Torah picked a specific time. But where the mitzias, where the actuality, where the physical manifestation of the item doesn't let you do it at a different time, that is not a mitzvah sasei shazman groma. And with this, Rabbi Yissocher, Reb Shlomo Kluger goes on to explain that Gemara in Sanhedrin that the Mogen Avraham was forced to say Lav Davka. Remember, what does the Gemara say in Masechta Sanhedrin? The Gemara is like this. Omar le Rav Achal Rav Ashi b'marava mevorchi baruch mechadish chadashim. That in Marava, in the west, their nusach for the bracha was Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Mechadish Chadashim. Zaymer Gezuten Stark, and you go home. This Asher b'Mamorei Baruch Shchokim B'Pikol Tzva didn't say that. They had a very abbreviated nusach. Baruch Atah Hashem Mechadish Chadashim. Amalei. So one Amira said to the other, Rav Ashi said to Rav Acha, Baruch Mechadish Chadashim, that's the whole bracha. Hai Nashi Didon Nami Mevorchi. That bracha, even our wives make. Elo Kid Rav Yehuda. You want to know what the nusach is? The nusach is Dom Rav Yehuda, Asher b'Mamorei Baruch Shchokim B'Pikol Tzva Mechokes Man Shlo Yishanim Skatilim Sosim L'Smeichel Asher Yisrael Kainim Poyal Emesh Shklos Emers, etc., etc. So you have a machlokes over here between Ravina, between Rav Acha and Rav Ashi. What's the nusach of the bracha of Kiddush levanna? It is simply Baruch Atah Hashem Mechadish Chadashim, period. Or no, it's this long bracha Asher b'Mamorei that we in fact make. What's going on in this Gemara? Sokab Shlomo Kluger, a beautiful pshat in the Gemara. In Ma'arava, they were of the opinion that the bracha of Kiddush levanna is simply Baruch Atah Hashem Mechadish Chadashim. Says the Gemara to him, that bracha, even our wives can make. You know why? Because if the entire bracha is just about the new moon, then that's not a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. Because even though you can only do it a certain part of the month, but that's because of the physical mitzias of it, not because of a arbitrary, you got to do it now. But what is there? The other nusach of Kiddush levanna, Asher b'Mamorei Baruch Shchokim, that the bracha is not only about the levanna, it's about the sun, the moon, the stars, the whole planetary system. Which means that once we're making the bracha about the moon, the new moon, you know what we throw in? We throw in everything. We throw in about the stars and the sun and the moon, and it's a bracha about the entire planetary system that the Rebbeinu Shalom set up. Now, why make it then? Why did the Chachamim pick to make it then? The answer is because they picked that time. An arbitrary reason. Oh, you can only make the bracha on the sun, the moon, the stars, the constellations at a specific time? That is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. Because theoretically speaking, if I want to praise the Rebbeinu Shalom for the entire constellation and the cosmos, why can't I make it any time of the month? The answer is that the Rabbanan went and decided, well, once you're making the bracha about the new moon, so we're going to stick in everything about the constellations. But that's tying it to a specific time. That is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. A mitzvah that you could do at any time, but the Rabbanan told you specifically to do it at this specific time. That's a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. Now the shakla v'tari of the Gemara is beautiful. What's the nusach of Kiddush levanna? Zok the Gemara. Rav Acha says, Baruch Mechadish Chadashim. It's about the moon and that's it, the new moon. Zok the Gemara. That's not the bracha. If that would be the bracha, Hani Nashi Nami Mevorchi. If it would only be about the Kiddush HaLevana, then that wouldn't be a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, and therefore our wives would also make it. You know what the bracha is? It's a bracha that's kailo not only the new moon, but the sun, the moon, the stars, etc. So why dafka now? That's when the Rabbanan decided to make the bracha, decided to make the mitzvah. That qualifies as a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, and therefore women won't make it. So now Rabbi Yisai, this is what Rav Shlomo Kluger argues with the Magen Avraham. He says Kiddush levanna is not a mitzvah saseh shazman grama because it is not because of an arbitrary or fiat that the Torah said or the Rabbanan said. It's because of a physical mitzias. That doesn't qualify as a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. And therefore, that's how he learns Pshat in the Gemara Masechta Sanhedrin. Now, to the last point, which I'm surprised everybody didn't jump on this Magen Avraham at the beginning of this year. The Magen Avraham writes in the name of the Shalom HaKadosh that even though Kiddush levanna is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, and women normally do perform mitzvah saseh shazman grama, this is different. Why? So I'll quote you the lashon of the Shalah in the Shar HaIsius. L'osid lavai yelech pegam halavana v'tia or halavana k'or achama. Eventually, l'osid lavai, the moon and the sun are going to be equal again. V'asher nir be'enei shetam zeh misrachakim hanoshim mitzvah zu. That's the reason women don't make Kiddush levanna. Mipnei shepegam halavana garma ha'isha harishayna dahainu chet chava umisrachakim mipnei habusha. Says the Shalom HaKadosh that when Chava on that fateful day gave Adam Harishon to eat from the Eitz Hadas, the moon became smaller. So since Chava was responsible for the moon becoming smaller, therefore it's a busha. Women don't want to go out. They don't want to look at the moon. The moon's embarrassed. She's embarrassed. That's why women don't make mitzvah. That's why women don't make Kiddush levanna. The Shalah is a pella, Rabbi Yisai. Is that the reason the moon became smaller? What's the reason the moon became smaller? Rashi, the beginning of Bereshis, that the moon came to the Rebbeinu Shalom and said, Ein shnei malachim mishtamshim b'keser echad. You can't have two kings. So therefore, Zak Rashi, Bayas alkim eshnei amorim hagdolim, Zak Rashi, Shavim nivru v'nismat halavana shekitr kavam yesh l'shnei malachim mishtamshim b'keser echad. That's not the reason the moon became smaller. The moon became smaller is because the moon, the Rebbeinu Shalom says we can't have two kings. So the Rebbeinu Shalom, yeah, you can't have two kings here, right? Go ahead and make yourself smaller. Right. What does it have to do with the Chet of Adam Harishon? What does it have to do with the Chet of Eitz Hadas? What's the Shalah saying? So I saw in a sefer called B'Shvilei HaMinig that he wants to say a gewaltige Kiddush, Rabbi Yisai. Two things happened to the moon, and Bemison stated this in Zohar. When the moon came to the Rebbeinu Shalom and said, it's not right that there should be two malachim, you know what happened to the moon? The moon was created that it had its own light. Once the moon came and tied it to the Rebbeinu Shalom, it's not right, so the Rebbeinu Shalom took away its own source of light, and the moon became merely reflective of the sun's light. That's what happened when the moon said, we can't have two kings, co-presidents. We can't have co-kings. Now that's stated in Zohar. The Zohar Taka says, Zihara, lesle migarma klum elamadiyohi le shimsha. Then, in a separate incident, when Chava gave the Eitz Hadas, the fruit of the Eitz Hadas, to Adam Harishon, you know what happened? The moon became smaller. In other words, Eichus and Kamas, quality and quantity. Two things happened to the moon. It lost its quality of light, and it lost its quantity. It lost its quality of light, that it became merely reflective. When the moon said, I don't want to be co-president. When Chava went and gave from the Eitz Hadas, that's when the moon became smaller. So that's what the Shalom HaKadosh means. The reason women don't make Kiddush levanna is because when you go out and you look at the moon and you see how this moon relative to the sun is much smaller, that's her fault. So Mibnei Habusha, says the Shalom HaKadosh, women don't go ahead and make Kiddush levanna. Ad kan the husband the divrei hashalah. So I saw an interesting kasher Rabbi Yisai in the Sefer Ber Moshe from the Debretziner Rov in Chelik Vov Siman Kuf Lamed Hey. The Torah brings, we all know this, that really both men and women are mechuyev in the locusts ner Shabbos. So why is it the minig Yisrael that women light ner Shabbos? In other words, the husband's away from his wife, and then he has to light ner Shabbos as well. But in the home, women light ner Shabbos. The Torah brings down the reason. What's the reason for that? Because since Adam Arishan was Oiroi Shal Oilam, V'hi Kavsa Oira Shal Oilam, she diminished the light of Adam Arishan. Therefore, as a tikkun, women have to bench licht every single week because she diminished the light of mankind. Therefore, what does she do as a kapara? She lights Neiros Shabbos. If that's the case, women bedafke should make Kiddush levanna. Because if the moon, we're saying now that the moon is smaller. Why is the moon smaller? Because she caused the moon to be smaller. So doesn't it stand to reason by the same logic that if you caused the moon to be smaller, you should in fact do the tikkun and you should make Kiddush levanna? Again, why does a woman bench licht? Because she caused the hate, and she caused the Irish Shalayla, because she diminished the light of mankind. Therefore, what must she do? She must bring light into the world. She has to bench Neiros Shabbos. On the other hand, we say what? She caused the moon to be nismayet. Therefore, what? She shouldn't make Kiddush levanna? Which is it? If you go with this logic, she should make Kiddush levanna. It's an opposite logic. What's the pshat? So he says, a pashat teretz. There's a concept of ein kateger nasa saneger. When you're dealing with the same object, there's a concept of the defense attorney. The prosecutor can't become the defense attorney. Ein kateger nasa saneger. When a woman lights licht, those are different lights than the Oira Shalaylam of Adam Arishan. But when a woman will go out to the very same moon which she diminished, so that is a getter of Ein Kateger Nasa Saneger. The very moon that she diminished, now she goes out and prays. That's incongruous. There's something wrong with that. There's a busha. It's a busha for her. It's a busha for the moon. Neirei Shabbos, the pshat is, that's not the same Neir that she was kavsa. She diminished light in the world. What's the tikkun? Bring more light in the world. But this moon that you diminished, you should go out now and praise the moon and praise the Rebbeinu Shalom for making such a moon. You caused me to be in the situation that I am in. That is inappropriate. It's a ger of ein kateger nasa saneger, and that's why women don't. That's why over here it doesn't pass to say she should do this as a tikkun. So, to review Rabbi Yisai, the Mogan Avraham writes that Kiddush levanna women don't make because it's a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. And even though women normally do perform mitzvah saseh shazman grama, this is different for one of two reasons. Either because she was the cause of this, the fact that the moon is
take exit 15 and then merge left on US 11 South.
Mitzvah saseh shazman grama that is only a bracha she doesn't make. Rabbi Shlomo Kluger argues with this. Mogan Avraham holds that it is not a mitzvah saseh shazman grama, but in spite of the fact, in spite of the rayas that he brought, but normative Jewish practice is in fact that women do not make mitzvah, they do not make Kiddush levanna, whichever the reason may be, and that's the way people in fact should be neihe halacha l'maisa. Parshas Boy begins with the final three makas that were brought upon Paro and Mitzrayim. Parshas Boy begins, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe Boy al Paroi ki ani hichbarati es liboy. And then the pasuk says, L'man tisapru b'oznei bincha, tisaper b'oznei bincha, ver bincha is asher hisalalti b'Mitzrayim, ves ois asher samti b'am. Rebbeinu Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm bringing this mark on Mitzrayim so that L'man Tisaper Bo'az Nebincho Ve'bincha, so that you will discuss this with your children and your grandchildren, how the Rebbeinu Shalom toyed with Mitzrayim in order to force them to let the Jews out. This is the only makkah that you have this expression. L'man Tisaper Bo'az Nebincho Ve'bincha. Why is that? What is different about Makas Arba that here the Torah says that the purpose of the Makas is that you will discuss this for generations? Why is the Mak of Arba different from any of the other 9 Makas? So the Klayokra over here brings...
Turn right on US 20 West Cherry Valley Turnpike.
A very, very interesting fact. The Ramban brings from the Rabbeinu Hananel that after the Arba came to Mitzrayim and Moshe Rabbeinu prayed that the Arba should be removed, Moshe Rabbeinu used the Lashon that
12.3 miles ahead. Stay on US 20 West Cherry Valley Turnpike as New York 174 splits off.
Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm going to bring an Arba to Mitzrayim, the likes of which there never was and the likes of which there never will be again. Then Moshe Rabbeinu stopped the Makkah and the Arba left. The Pasuk says, when the Arba left, Lo nishar Arba echad b'chol gvul Mitzrayim. Says the Rabbeinu Hananel, a phenomenal thing. Egypt, I don't know if this is historically correct, but this is what the Rabbeinu Hananel says. Egypt never again suffered from a plague of Arba. Because since Moshe Rabbeinu said the words that Mitzrayim will never have an Arba like this again, and since the Pasuk says, Lo nishar Arba echad b'chol gvul Mitzrayim, so Mitzrayim had the mazel that they were never afflicted by a plague of locusts again in their history, which is a which is an anomalous event, because many countries, including certainly Eretz Yisrael, the Arba, Yoel ben Besuel, in the United States of America has had a plague of Arba. In Africa, Seder, they have plagues of Arba. Mitzrayim never lost another stalk of grain to Arba. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu said, that's it, no more Arba. No more Arba means no more Arba, period. In fact, the Klayokra writes, V'im yipol be'eretz Yisrael v'yova v'yikanis b'gvul Mitzrayim eino eichel mikol yvul klum ad achshav. That even if Eretz Yisrael would be afflicted by an Arba, even if Ethiopia, which borders Egypt, will be affected by Arba, even if the Sudan has an Arba, and they'll float over to Mitzrayim, but when you get to Mitzrayim, you don't eat. Zok the Klayokar, as opposed to, for instance, Tzfardeya, Bo'urei, keep it Tzfardeya, Omar Rak by Yor Tisha'arna. When it came to the Makkah of Tzfardeya, the Tzfardeya went back in the Nile, and they stayed in the Nile. In fact, the Klayokar seems to indicate that the Tzfardeya were really crocodiles. And he says that's why which is a crocodile on Akshav. Well, that's where they're crocodiles in the Nile. Why? Because it says Rak Bayar Tisharn. But the Arba was different. Mitzrayim never ever had an Arba again. So the Klayokar, if that's right, you know what would happen? When the surrounding countries would be hit by an Arba, when Eretz Yisrael, for instance, was hit by an Arba, when the surrounding countries were hit by an Arba, and nothing happened to Egypt, so your kid comes and asks you, that's a pella. The Arba didn't consume anything in Egypt. Why is that true? So you have to tell your child, you have to tell him, my little child, I'll tell you why. Because one time the Rebbeinu Shalom bought Arba Mitzrayim, and Moshe Rabbeinu stopped the Arba. And Moshe Rabbeinu said there'll never be an Arba like this again in Mitzrayim, because when the Rebbeinu Shalom took Klal Yisrael out of Egypt, he said this statement that there'll never be an Arba again in Mitzrayim. And as a result of that, your child will once again relive the whole story of the Yetzias Mitzrayim. Leman tisaper ba'oznei bincha uven bincha. By Chayshich it doesn't say that. By Kinim it doesn't say that. By Orav it doesn't say it. It doesn't say by the other Makkahs. You know why? Because once the Makkah is over, the Makkah is over. It's history. But Arba keeps on living ad hayom hazeh. Arba still is talked about, because whenever there's an Arba in the surrounding countries and it doesn't affect Egypt, and your children ask you why not, Leman tisaper ba'oznei bincha ben bincha. Hazeh zocht the Kli Yakar. Fragt sich der Kasher Rabbi Yisai, Mitzrayim should get such a bracha? Eretz Yisrael doesn't have a bracha. The rest of the world doesn't have a bracha. The United States doesn't have a bracha. Mitzrayim, who did all of this to us, they have this insurance policy. You don't have to worry about Arba. You don't have to take out locust insurance. It's never going to happen again. Why were they zeicha to that? So I saw in a sefer, Imre Baruch, he brings from a sefer called Ker LeDavid. A beautiful ha'ara. And that is because Mitzrayim, as bad as they were, and as much as they deserved to suffer, but they were the objects of a gewaltige Kiddush Hashem. Because through Mitzrayim, it became apparent the Yad Hashem, the Yad HaChazaka. So even though they were unwilling participants in this Kiddush Hashem, they didn't do this to make a Kiddush Hashem. Adarabah, they were horrible to us. But they caused a Kiddush Hashem. Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu mekapeach schar kol beria. The Rebbeinu Shalom gives just reward for everyone and to everything and to everybody. Whether it was bekivon, not bekivon, bekavana, not bekavana, on purpose, inadvertent, against their will. But they are the perpetrators of a Kiddush Hashem. And as such, they deserve a reward. And what's their reward? Out of the whole parsha, their reward is they don't have to worry about Arba. So with this Rabbi Yisai, he says, Pshat, Leman tisaper ba'oznei bincha uven bincha is asher yisalalti Mitzrayim ve'escha yisayseh asher samti bom v'yidatem ki ani Hashem. Those words, v'yidaitem ki ani Hashem, Rashi and Chumash, in 8 different places, and you can look it up. Rashi, every time it says Ani Hashem, you know what Rashi's comment is? Nemon l'shalem schar. I'm trustworthy. I am nemon to give the schar. Whatever it may be, side good and side bad. When you do something bad, the Rebbe says, V'yidaitem ki ne Hashem. When you do something good, V'yidaitem ki ani Hashem. Nemon l'shalem schar. That's what the pasuk is saying. Leman tisaper ba'oznei bincha uven bincha. Eis asher yisalalti Mitzrayim. That's what it says, asher samti bom. The Makkah of Arba lives on. You're going to tell your children that Arba is never going to happen again in Mitzrayim. They're going to realize what the Rebbeinu Shalom did. V'yidaitem. But the fact that Arba will never again afflict Mitzrayim, v'yidaitem ki ani Hashem, nemon l'shalem schar. No good deed will ever go unrewarded. The Rebbeinu Shalom gives schar for even the most minute dover taiv, even the most inadvertent, the most forced dover taiv. The Rebbeinu Shalom gives schar. The Mechilta brings on a pasuk in this week's parsha, L'chol b'nei Yisrael le'yachratz kelav es l'shaynai, kelav l'shanam. Sagt der Mechilta, Lefichach Amra Torah B'treifa LaKelev Tashlichon Eisai U'Lamercha She'en HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mekapeh Schar Kol Beria. The pasuk says, "Basar basada treifa leisachelu." When you have an animal that was nitraf, that was torn apart by a wild animal, what are you supposed to? Don't eat it. Basar basada treifa leisachelu. What do you do with it? LaKelev Tashlichon Eisai. Why the dog? Why not the cat? Why LaKelev Tashlichon Eisai? Zok the Mechilta, because the Rebbeinu Shalom remembers what the dogs did. What did the dogs do? The dogs did nothing. They didn't bark. But they caused the Kiddush Hashem. Because for 1 million people to leave and not one dog to utter one bark, you see the Yad Hashem. So dogs have to get their reward. Therefore, LaKelev Tashlichon Eisai. The dogs get their reward. The Egyptians who inflicted so much pain on get rewarded because they were the purveyors of a Kiddush Hashem, albeit against their will and unintentionally, but they made a Kiddush Hashem. So Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't forget that. Ani Hashem ne'eman l'shalom schar. The other ha'ara I'd like to say is a beautiful ha'ara, beautiful chap in the classic tradition of the Kotzker Rebbe Zecher Tzadik Livracha. The pasuk says, "V'amar Hashem l'ngefes Mitzrayim v'roas Hadam al ha'mashkef al shtei ha'mezuzais u'pasach Hashem al ha'pesach u'yiten ha'mashkis l'voy al boteichem l'ngef." The Rebbeinu Shalom will pass over the doors, and he'll not let the mashkis come in and affect you. This is indeed, Rabbi Yisai, why the Yontif of Pesach is called Pesach, because of this very pasuk. Upasach Hashem ala Pesach. The Rebbeinu Shalom will pass over the door. That's why it's called Pesach. There was a fact that happened in Mitzrayim, by Yetzias Mitzrayim, a phenomena that never happened before that and has never happened since. And that is that when it comes to the world of spirituality, the only way a person is ever zeicha to anything, the only way you achieve anything, is by making some kind of effort. If you don't make the effort, you're not going to gain any type of ruchnius. Even if it is the smallest effort, but you've got to do something. The famous Gemara, it's actually a medrash, not a Gemara. Chazal say this, what I mentioned before. State in Chazal, the Pishuli Pesach, Pesach shall Pishuli Pesach, Kechuda shall Machat, Vani Pesach Lechem Psochim, Shiagolos Ukrones Nichnoseis Ba. You have to do something. Pishuli Pesach, Kechuda shall Machat. Open up the door for me, even if it's as small an opening as the eye of a needle. But you have to do something to be zeichet to ruchnius. That's the rule of thumb. It's like a law of physics, like the law of gravity. The only way you're ever zeichet to ruchnius is if you do an effort, you make some kind of effort, small as it may be. Pesach shel machat, the hole of a needle, the eye of a needle. But you have to open the door. There was an exception to that rule. By Mitzrayim, Klal Yisrael was zeichet gewaltige ruchnius without deserving it, without acting. Matter of fact, as I mentioned at the beginning of this year, the Gemara says, "Ra sa shivka al hayom masha loy ra Yecheskel ben Buzi." That even the simplest maidservant on Yam Suf saw a Gili Shechina, the likes of which that Yecheskel Hanavi, that whole saw the entire Maisa Merkava, he didn't have such a Gili Shechina. Rabbi say, if you look up the Rambam of what a person has to do in order to be Zeicha to Nevuah, it's frightening. The Rambam writes, I won't read the whole Rambam, in Perek Zayin Milchas Yiseri HaTeira. Zotter ein ha-nevuah chala el al ha-chocham gadol b'chochma gibor b'midaisav. Nevuah can only be given to a person who's a chacham and a gibor, who controls himself. V'lo yehei yitzrei misgaber olav b'davar ba'olam, el hu misgaber al dait al yitzrei tamid. V'hu bal deir rechav, he's a man of great mind, mechaynad moed, adam shehu memula b'chol midas ha'elu, a person that has all of these midas, sholem begufay, kisheyichnes lepardes. That is what you have to be a Navi. You have to be a Sholem b'midaisav. You have to be a Chacham. You have to be a Baldei Rechava. You have to have total control over yourself. That is to be a Navi. And yet, Ra Shivchal Hayom Mashla Ra Yecheskel Ben Busi. The Shivchal Hayom was not a Chacham, was not a Baldei Rechava, was not a Gibor B'Yitzra. She was just a Pashan maidservant. How did it work? Where was her hachana? Where was her preparation? Where was her pischuli pesach ke pesach shel chamachat? Where was her opening up of the door? So the Kotzker Rebbe, Upasach Hashem al ha-pesach. The Rebbeinu Shalom passed over the door. The Rebbeinu Shalom passed over the requirement that you have to open the door. Normally you have to open something, you have to do something. Pesach was a yontif, was an experience that without even doing anything, without even opening the door, the Rebbeinu Shalom bent the rules and said, I'm going to give Klal Yisrael this geula, and I'm going to shower them with the gifts of Ruchnias, the gifts of Gashmias, the gifts of Nevuah. Pesach al ha-Pesach. The Rebbeinu Shalom passed over. He relaxed. 2
miles ahead, stay on US 20 West Cherry Valley Turnpike as New York 174 splits off.
This year was presented by Rabbi Yissocher Frand Shlita.